Hello, my name is Connor Chapman, and today I'm going to be talking about different parts of the brainstem. Before I get started, I want to introduce you through a picture of myself. This is me in the middle with my grandmother and my cousins on my side. So in my presentation, I'm going to be talking about the anatomy, physiology, and common pathologies associated with the brainstem. The brainstem is located in the posterior aspect of the brain. It is made up of three distinct parts. The part shown in green at the top is the midbrain. Just below that is the pons, and the most inferior part shown in purple is the medulla oblongata. The brainstem is made up of white and gray matter. The gray matter is found in clusters throughout the brainstem, and it forms the cranial nerve nuclei, the reticular formation, and the pontine nuclei. The white matter consists of axons of neuron cells, which are sent down from the cerebral cortex and sent up from the peripheral nerves and the spinal cord. The internal structure of the brainstem is made up of three distinct layers, or laminae. The blue portion shown here is the roof plate, also known as the tectum. Just below that is the tegmentum, and the final layer, shown in the pink, is the basal portion. Cranial nerves 3 through 12 all emerge from the brainstem. The oculomotor nerve and the trochlear nerve nuclei emerge from the midbrain. The nuclei of the trigeminal nerve, abducens nerve, facial nerve, and vestibulocochlear nerve emerge from the pons, and the nuclei of the glossopharyngeal nerve, vagus nerve, accessory nerve, and hypoglossal nerve all emerge from the medulla. Blood supply from the brainstem comes from the basilar artery and the vertebral arteries. The right and left vertebral artery come together at the level of the pons on the ventral surface of the brainstem to form the midline basilar artery. So now I'm going to move on to the physiology part. The brainstem is responsible for four different types of functions. It is responsible for the conduction functions throughout the body, functions of cranial nerves 3 through 12. It is responsible for conjugating eye movement. It is responsible for several different integrative functions. All information that is sent to the cerebrum and cerebellum from the body and vice versa must travel through the brainstem. These pathways include the ascending sensory tracts and the descending motor tracts. As I mentioned earlier, cranial nerves 3 through 12 all emerge from the brainstem. These cranial nerves are responsible for different types of functions, including taste, balance, auditory processing, smell, amongst others. Brainstem is also responsible for conjugating eye movement both vertically and horizontally. Horizontal gaze is controlled by cranial nerves 3 and 6, which are the oculomotor nerve and the abducens nerve. Vertical gaze, on the other hand, is controlled by cranial nerves 3 and 4, which are the oculomotor nerve and the trochlear nerve. Brainstem is responsible for several integrative functions. It is responsible for our sleep cycle. It's responsible for alertness and arousal. It is a control center for cardiovascular, respiratory, and autonomic nervous system functions. As I mentioned, the vestibulocochlear nerve emerges from the pons and is responsible for helping the body maintaining balance. And the brainstem also serves as a control center for pain sensitivity and reception. Three common pathologies associated with the brainstem are Parkinson's disease, auditory processing disorders, and brainstem-related strokes. Parkinson's disease is one of the most common long-term neurodegenerative diseases. One of the common signs of Parkinson's disease is the degeneration of pigmented neurons found on the brainstem. Auditory disorders are another common pathology associated with the brainstem. It is estimated that over 50% of auditory processing disorders are related to lesions found on the brainstem. Final pathology I'm going to talk about is brainstem-related strokes. As I mentioned earlier, the brainstem serves as a balance center for the body, and one of the most common symptoms of the brainstem-related strokes is vertigo. Another common effect seen from brainstem-related strokes is locked-in syndrome. This is when the patient is aware of its surroundings but is unable to communicate verbally. I think the verse from Ephesians 4:16 does a good job of relating to the brainstem. It basically says that the body is made up of a bunch of different parts and they must come together to work properly. And this could be a good gateway into the brainstem, because the brainstem is made up of several different cranial nerves that all have different functions, and if any of those are damaged, it could result in abnormal processing. So that is all I have to say about the brainstem. I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening.